California Transportation Commission. We like to start on time, end on time, and respect your time. So we will go ahead. My name's Carl Guardino. I have the honor of serving as vice chair of our California Transportation Commission, filling in today for our incredible chair, Leanne Eager. We'd like to thank you for attending the first hearing on the draft 2024 Interregional Transportation Improvement Program, lovingly known as the ITIP. Government Code Section 14526 requires the California Transportation Commission to hold at least 2 hearings on the draft ITIP proposed by Caltrans, one in Northern California, which will be held next Wednesday, November 8th in Sacramento, and the other in Southern California, which is today's hearing. The ITIP is a critical component of the State Transportation Improvement Program that provides funding for state highway and intercity passenger rail projects that improve the interregional movement of people, vehicles, and goods. Caltrans released the draft ITIP this past weekend. The Commission looks forward to hearing from Caltrans today about how the projects in the draft ITIP will advance the state's safety, equity, climate, and economic prosperity goals. As the residents of California have diverse needs, we know the projects proposed will look different for different parts of our diverse state. While statutorily limited, the ITIP is a multimodal program that can offer different solutions to meet those diverse needs. Today's hearing is informational only, and no action will be taken. After the ITIP hearings have concluded, Caltrans will review all comments and take them into consideration when developing the final 2024 ITIP. We will hear from our team in the next agenda item, the timeline for the adoption of the ITIP. But first, Doug Remedios will provide instructions for members of the public wishing to comment on the draft 2024 Interregional Transportation Improvement Program following the Caltrans presentation. Doug?
Thank you, Vice Chair Guardino. Welcome to the draft 2024 ITIP Southern hearing. The CTC exists to make transportation planning, funding, and policy more understandable and accountable. Our hearings take place in diverse locations around the state so that commissioners and staff can hear directly from our stakeholders around California. We are pleased to adjust to a hybrid in-person and webinar format to make this hearing more accessible than ever. Please bear with us should we encounter any technical challenges. The hearing agenda is available on our website at www.catc.ca.gov. The presentation for today's meeting is also available on the Commission meetings page of that website. Any document the CTC creates can be translated into any language you need. Simply email us at ctc@catc.ca.gov and we will have them returned to you as quickly as possible. Live closed caption translation is being provided for this meeting. Please select the Show Captions tab at the bottom of your screen. There are a number of language options available there to choose from. We welcome comments from the public as part of this meeting. For those attending in person, please submit a speaker slip to the clerk at the front of the room to let us know you want to comment on an item, and that's me up here. For those attending via Zoom, you should see the webinar control panel, likely located on the bottom of your screen. There you'll find the Raise Hand and Q&A tabs. We encourage you to use the Raise Hand feature as early into the comment item as you can to give the system time to acknowledge you. Committee staff will let you know when it's your turn to make your comment. Alternately, you may use the Q&A tab to submit your comment. Please be sure to include the agenda item number you are commenting on. Commission staff will read the comment on your behalf. As a reminder, each registered attendee is provided a unique link and phone number to access the webinar. These should not be shared with other participants, as this can create confusion for staff when calling on you to make comments. Please do your best to be concise. Please make sure your comments add new information. If you agree with the comments of a previous speaker, simply make that statement. Please remember to speak at a steady pace to allow the captioning service adequate time for accurate translation. Since we often have many speakers, we ask that you make your point in 3 minutes or less. If, for some reason, we have many speakers on a single topic, We reserve the right to limit comments to 1 minute as needed. Thank you for joining us today. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Doug Remedios, thank you, as always. And that train you heard go by wasn't piped in just for effect. We are at the Colton Crossing train station here in San Bernardino County. I'd like to turn it over to our Executive Director, Tanisha Taylor.
Thank you. I'll just take a minute to welcome everyone to the ITIP and turn it over to Casey Ruggiero, who'll talk about the overview and purpose of the draft 2024 ITIP.
Good afternoon. My name is Casey Ruggiero, and I'm the Program Manager of the State Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the STIP. The STIP is a 5-year program of capital improvements that fund highway, transit, local road, and active transportation type projects. Statute requires the STIP to be adopted biannually each even-numbered year, no later than August 1st. The STIP is made up of 2 programs. The Regional Improvement Program, which receives 75% of STIP funds, and the Interregional Improvement Program, which receives 25% of STIP funds. This hearing is specific to the draft Interregional Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the ITIP, which is developed by Caltrans. The ITIP is made up of projects that are programmed in the STIP's Interregional Improvement Program. Statute requires that the ITIP funds be distributed as follows. 60% of the interregional funds must be directed outside urbanized areas on interregional road systems with a minimum of 15% of intercity rail projects. 40% of the interregional funds must go anywhere in the state subject to the 60-40 split. Caltrans is required to develop the ITIP in consultation with transportation planning agencies, county transportation commissions, and transportation authorities. Caltrans is also required to submit the draft ITIP to the California Transportation Commission by October 15th of each odd-numbered year. By November 15th of each odd-numbered year, the Commission is required to hold at least 2 public hearings, one in the north and one in the south. The draft 2024 ITIP is available to the public and can be found on Caltrans' website and also the Commission's website under the State Transportation Improvement Program. Today is the first of 2 required ITIP hearings. The North hearing will be held next week on Wednesday, November 8th in Sacramento, California. The agenda for each ITIP hearing is available on the Commission's website. Following the North and South hearings, Caltrans staff will prepare the final ITIP. The final ITIP shall include a summary of the major comments received at the hearings and responses to those comments. Staff encourages Caltrans to consider the input received at both hearings as the ITIP is finalized. Caltrans' final ITIP and the region's Regional Transportation Improvement Programs, also known as the RTIPs, are due to the Commission by December 15th, 2023. As RTIPs and the ITIP are received, staff will compile all of the proposals into one document that will be presented at the North and South STIP hearings on Thursday, January 25th and Thursday, February 1st, 2024. Staff will publish its recommendations for the 2024 STIP on Friday, March 1st, 2024. The Commission will adopt the STIP at the March 2024 Commission meeting just a few days before the required adoption date of April 1st. The 2024 STIP guidelines were adopted by the Commission at the August 2023 Commission meeting. The guidelines set the policy standards, criteria, and procedures for the development, adoption, and management of the 2024 STIP. Also in August, the Commission adopted the 2024 STIP fund estimate, identifying $1.6 billion of new capacity for the 2024 STIP period, including $435 million in public transportation account funds, the primary source for rail and transit projects. The 2024 STIP fund estimate, it indicates a limited amount of capacity in the first 3 years of the STIP due to existing programming commitments. Priorities will be given to projects experiencing cost increases, new phases that are being added to existing projects, and projects that have SB1 commitments. The formula distribution for the interregional program was approximately $421 million. However, due to the previous advances of $118 million and a lapsed project of $9 million, the amount available for new programming is $312 million. The STIP guidelines identify the interregional program that works towards achieving the following objectives. The objectives are to provide access for people and goods to and through all regions of California, Ensure that the interregional transportation system is reliable and efficient for the movement of people, goods, services, and emergency response. Develop and operate a safe interregional transportation system for all travelers by improving public safety and security. Optimize multimodal connectivity throughout the interregional transportation system for all people. Improve interregional connectivity to enhance California's diverse economy. And finally, improve and manage California's interregional transportation system in an environmentally sensitive, economical, and equitable manner that fosters livable and healthy communities and promotes social equity. All new projects proposed for funding in the Interregional Improvement Program must meet the objectives as specified above, be consistent with the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, also known as the ITSP, have a project initiation document, also known as a PID, or an equivalent to the PID, and finally, have a complete funding commitment. This means each proposed phase must be fully funded at the time of adoption. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Casey, thank you. We'd like to turn it over to James Anderson now for the presentation of the draft 2022 Interregional Transportation Improvement Program.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Cardino, Commission staff, all others in attendance. My name is James Anderson, and I work with the California Department of Transportation. And I'm here to present, or I'm pleased to present, the 2024 Draft Interregional Transportation Improvement Program, also referred to as the ITIP. Next slide, please. So one of the goals of the 2024 ITIP is to ensure consistency and alignment across statewide plans and policies, including the goals in the California Transportation Plan of 2050, CAPTI's vision and guiding principles, and the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, and I'll just call that the ITSP. We refer to that as the ITSP. The objectives in the ISP are focused on interregional travel. The ITSP provides the framework to guide investments in the ITIP corridors, or the strategic corridors, to connect and to transfer or to accommodate the movement of goods and people across the state. And they also include strategic investments for the entire interregional system, all funding included. The 2021 ITSP includes a greater emphasis on climate, equity, and accessibility than the previous ITSP. With this draft ITIP, projects that are consistent with CAPTI and the 2021 ITSP were added. Next slide, please. With limited funding available for this ITIP cycle, projects were prioritized based on cost updates or refinements that were previously programmed in prior ITIPs, current programmed ITIP projects that need funding to complete the remaining phases of work, the project cost or ITIP request, the evaluation criteria for the ITIP projects based on the ITSP, and prioritizing new projects consistent with the ITSP and the CAPTI framework. Next slide, please. So the 2024 STIP fund estimate provides about $312 million in new capacity. As a side note, it should also be pointed out that the fund estimate took into account all the EJA funding or federal funding was also included in that amount. Next slide, please. So the ITIP, the available ITIP capacity was used to fund carryover projects, which include cost refinements and cost updates, new projects that are aligned with ITSP and CAPTI, and we're going to discuss a little bit more about those two types of projects here in the next coming slides. As a quick overview, well, yeah, let's just go ahead and proceed. Next slide, please. So this slide is very important and provides a statewide perspective of the overall interregional highway. As you can see, there are 10 priority corridors. The question was previously asked, how do active transportation projects contribute to interregional travel? And active transportation projects see benefits that extend beyond a particular region or community. These projects improve road user safety and connectivity on key interregional routes, which help keep local disadvantaged communities safe from the impacts of interregional travel on these corridors. They provide environmental benefits that can contribute to regional and even global efforts to combat climate change and improve air quality. And lastly, they align with sustainability goals and create long-term benefits for regions by reducing car dependence and promoting alternative transportation projects. The 3 active transportation projects that's proposed for programming in the 2024 ITIP will encourage walking, biking, transit on streets that support disadvantaged communities. Lastly, these projects will better separate vehicles traveling interregionally from local active transportation trips and provide safety benefits for all users using the state highway system. Next slide, please. This slide is also very important and provides a statewide perspective of the overall intercity passenger rail program, consisting of existing and newly proposed projects and their location in one of the 9 intercity passenger rail corridors. The question was previously asked about how this ITIP addresses growing freight demand. It's important to note that rail investments identified in this ITIP would provide greater passenger and goods movement efficiencies by reducing congestion, travel delays, and vehicle idling. Caltrans developed a statewide ridership modeling tool for the 2022 State Rail Plan. This tool is currently being used by the California High-Speed Rail Authority. However, Caltrans did not use this tool to produce ridership estimates for the projects in the 2024 ITIP. Basically, essentially, Caltrans relied on the ridership models from project sponsors. However, the model is available and will be used moving forward to evaluate future rail projects. These projects will provide the necessary capacity and reliability for a mode shift of passenger vehicles and goods to rail. This mode shift is expected to improve travel time reliability on the highway corridor. Please note that not all corridors have projects, and some corridors may have more than one project based on the map shown there on slide 8. Next slide, please, or slide 7, next slide. As the table shows, there are 21 carryover projects from the 2022 ITIP. It's important to point out here that these projects do not count against the cycle's available capacity, as that capacity is always carried over from previous cycles. So that's good news. Next slide, please. As this table shows, there were 5 existing ITIP projects that received new funding this ITIP cycle. 3 projects had updates to their construction cost. They were revised and refined to provide more accurate cost estimates. The construction phase was funded for 1 project, and funding was provided for 1 project to fund right-of-way capital and support. Next slide, please. The funding cost changes for carryover projects total about $135 million. Slide 10 this shows where there are 10 projects proposed for this ITIP cycle. There are 3 active transportation projects, 4 passenger rail projects, 2 highway projects, and 1 charging infrastructure project for zero-emission vehicles. Funding for the proposed new ITIP project totals about $186.6 million. These projects, which reflect the priorities described in the 2021 ITSP, will help us implement CAPTI and work towards our climate, health, and equity goals by increasing safe transportation options for the traveling public. With the programming of these projects, Over 95% of the 2024 ITIP investments will be for rail, transit, or active transportation infrastructure. If anyone is interested in how the new projects were scored using the ITIP evaluation criteria, the total scores for the new document will be posted on the same website as the draft ITIP document. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you for allowing me to present the draft 2024 ITIP to you. Please submit written comments by email to OSIP, that stands for the Office of Capital Improvement Programs, osip@dot.ca.gov. And that concludes my presentation.
James Anderson, I want to thank you on behalf of the commission, the commissioners, as well as our amazing professional staff for your presentation today, but also all the work that you and your team put into this important exercise.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
With that, I would, unless our executive director has any comments that she would like to make, no, then I'd like to turn it over to our team for public comments, either in the room by filling out a speaker card, as Doug Remedios indicated, or by working through the webinar feature for those who are participating remotely.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Gardino. We have received a request from our virtual attendees to comment on this item. I would like to first call on Don Batiste.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can, and
Thank you very much. Don Batiste with the San Diego Association of Governments, and good afternoon, Vice Chair and Commissioners. The San Diego Association of Governments appreciates the opportunity to comment on the proposed San Dieguito Bridge Replacement Double Track and Special Events Platform project proposed in the ITIP. This crucial rail project will improve the interregional transportation system in this corridor of state and national significance that connects the San Diego region to the rest of the state. The project addresses train operations capacity, reliability, and safety for intercity passenger rail, regional passenger rail, and freight rail services. It will reduce train idling, reduce VMT and GHG emissions, and increase rail ridership by providing a special events platform to serve events at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. The project will improve public safety by removing an uncontrolled rail crossing with a new rail undercrossing for pedestrians and cyclists. And finally, the project improves the climate resiliency of rail infrastructure by replacing the existing timber bridge and raising the track profile. SANDAG continues to work with our state partners, the legislature, and the Lausanne Corridor Executive Task Force led by CalSTA to ensure that the most urgent needs of the corridor are addressed for a more resilient Lausanne corridor. We greatly appreciate the communication and collaboration with Caltrans and with the California State Transportation Agency in development of the ITIP to include this project. And we would like to thank the CTC for its support. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Up next, we have Margie Kern.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Vice Chair and members of the CTC staff and Executive Director Taylor. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments today at your ITIP hearing. We are thankful for the partnership with the California Transportation Commission and Caltrans as we get closer to completing the US 101 Santa Barbara 101 multimodal corridor. As you saw at your meeting in Santa Barbara last year, SBCAG, Caltrans, and our local partners are working together to deliver community-supported projects to provide managed lanes, peak hour passenger service, and transit electrification, and bike and pedestrian improvements. The CTC's investment of SB1, competitive fundings in Cycle 1 and 3 are getting us closer to a fully funding all the improvements necessary. Caltrans' proposed ITIP funding for the Santa Claus Lane Streetscape Phase 2 project is another step closer in realizing the goal of completing the multimodal corridor. We strongly support Caltrans' ITIP recommendation of $11.5 million for the Santa Barbara Santa Claus Lane Streetscape Phase 2 project. Investing in this project helps Southern Santa Barbara County meet many goals included in CAPTI, including mobility, safety, environment, climate, and equity and quality of life. The project will help close the gap on the California Coastal Trail and improve safety at the Union Pacific Railroad crossing to provide a single point of controlled coastal access, benefiting the pedestrians and bicyclists on the Santa Barbara South Coast. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and have a great day.
Thank you for participating. Our next speaker?
Yes, up next, we have Mike Woodman.
Vice Chair Gardino, fellow commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to provide comments today. The Nevada County Transportation Commission supports the funding recommendations in the draft ITIP. In the recommendations, the State Route 49 Corridor Improvement Project Phase 2 in Nevada County is recommended for an additional $2 million of ITIP funding for the construction phase of the project. The $2 million in ITIP recommendations will address a construction shortfall that was requested to fund the construction of a new entrance on State Route 49, creating a direct access to the Nevada County Transit Operations Center and zero-emission bus charging infrastructure. In addition to enhancing access to the zero-emission bus charging infrastructure, this project component will also reduce VMT related to improved transit routing and operations. Without the ITIP funding, the transit component of the overall project would not be able to be constructed. The overall project improvements will reduce emission impacts on adjacent AB 1550 populations in the corridor, and the State Route 49 Corridor Improvement Project is forecasted to save 113 tons of CO emissions, 25,000 tons of CO2 emissions, and 35 tons of NOx emissions over 20 years. Those numbers do not include the additional air quality emission reduction benefits that will result from the improved operations during high volume I-80 emergency detour events. Just to put the detour events into perspective, based on data collected by Caltrans District 3 Traffic Management Center, there have been 220 closures of I-80 that resulted in detours onto State Route 20 and State Route 49 that occurred between 2004 and 2022. This project will help to mitigate the impacts of future detour events on the community. NCTC would like to thank both Caltrans and the CTC for their continued partnership with NCTC to deliver the planned multimodal improvements within the State Route 49 corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next presenter.
Yes, thank you. Up next, I'd like to call on Ted Smalley.
Thank you. This is Ted Smalley from Tulare County Association of Governments. Wish to thank you on behalf of our county, and also we work closely with Merced and Madera for the commission's support on 99 and for Caltrans in their recommendations. As you all know, we had a discussion a few weeks ago at the CTC about 99 and the importance of it. We're so thankful that this recommendation includes some final funding to make whole 2 projects. One of them is in Madera, one is in Tulare. And we again want to strongly encourage and be thankful that these projects are in there, and encourage CTC to eventually approve this. And so thank you very much for the opportunity to comment, and hope everyone has a great day.
Ed, thanks for dialing in from Tulare County. Do we have any other speakers online or in the room who would like to address our hearing today?
We have received no other requests from any of our virtual attendees to comment on this item.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room?
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just received another one.
We
Good.
did. We just received a submission. I would like to call on Kiana Valentine.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kiana Valentine, serving as Executive Director for Transportation California, representing the statewide transportation construction industry that builds, maintains, and repairs our multimodal infrastructure. Calling to express our strong support for the variety of investments made in the draft 2024 ITIP. Upon our review, we have found that the ITIP meets all statutory requirements required of the program. As I mentioned, again, invests into multimodal transportation projects across the state, meets the CAPTI framework and should further the transportation system's contribution to reducing the impacts of climate change and reflects a diversity of solutions as our regions have diverse transportation problems. So for all of those reasons, Transportation California is pleased to support the draft 2024 ITIP.
Thank you for calling in. Do we have anyone else online?
Yes, we've received another request to comment on this item. I wanted to call on William Walker.
Hi, I'll be really quick. My name is William Walker and I live in San Francisco. I heard that there might be 3 comments on a plan that's very significant and funds a lot of projects. And I'm hoping that I can work with the commission to provide outreach so that we have a database of organizations that's aware of our meetings. It's worrisome to me that there are only 3 people commenting at this meeting. So thank you.
William, thank you for calling in and thank you for your service to our state as well. Do we have anyone else online or in the room who would like to address the commission at this hearing?
Yes, up next, I would like to call on Russell Snyder.
Russell, we're ready when you are. You may want to make sure you've taken yourself off of mute.
Thank you, Commissioner Guardino. This is Russell Snyder, Executive Director of the California Asphalt Pavement Association. And just echoing Kiana Valentine's comments, we do support the draft ITIP as submitted. And also would just like to give a real shout out to the CTC and the professional staff at Caltrans for really going above and beyond to gather input from all stakeholders and align this plan with the various guidance documents that are out there so that it really is truly a document that will benefit, and the projects will benefit all Californians and our high-level climate goals and mobility goals. So we strongly support the draft, and thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Our next speaker.
Given in a moment, I do not see at this time any other request to comment on this item.
Great. Thank you. Anyone in the room who would like to speak and fill out a speaker card? No? Okay. To our executive director, how long would we like to wait to see if anyone else would like to join?
Maybe if we just give it 1 more minute and 1 more call, and then we can wrap.
Great. We're doing a last call for people who would like to dial in and provide their feedback. As we wait for that too, just a reminder, you can still participate, as next Wednesday, November 8th, is our Northern California hearing for the draft 2024 Interregional Transportation Improvement Program. That one will be in Sacramento, but also virtual participation is always welcome. Is there anyone else who has joined?
And Vice Chair, just a quick reminder to all the folks out there, just because this is the Southern hearing doesn't mean you have to be from the South to comment here. And the Northern hearing, you don't have to be from the North to comment there. Anyone can comment on either of these hearings at any time. And I'd like to send a reminder out to everyone. We have our joint meeting with CARB and HCD tomorrow. Please tune in for that. Should be an exciting meeting as well.
Doug, thank you for that reminder. And Mike in Nevada County is relieved that he was okay in calling in today. Is there any other comments from our staff lead on this, Casey, or from Caltrans staff lead James on the draft?
No, I have no further comments.
Okay.
Maybe James, if you can remind everyone where they can provide written comments if they don't testify at the hearing today or on the 8th.
James, how can people provide written comments if they do not participate orally today or on the 8th?
Yes, written comments can be provided, and we encourage you to provide written comments. Send them by email to OCIP, Oscar Charles, Indiana, and principal, right? OCIP at dot.oscartracy.ca.gov. Again, that's OCIP at dot.ca.gov. Thank you.
Casey and James, thanks again for your work on this, and to Tanisha Taylor and our amazing staff, thank you for all the work to put today's hearing together. Unless someone else has called in, we are going to go ahead and close the public comment period.
We received no other requests at this time.
Thank you. Then we will stand adjourned. This concludes our draft 2024 Interregional Transportation Improvement Program Southern hearing. Thank you for participating.